What if one of the greatest westerns ever made was hiding something right in front of your eyes the entire time? Something so buried in plain sight that even die-hard fans who have watched the film 50 times never caught it. Sam Elliott, the man with the voice that sounds like gravel wrapped in thunder, the man whose mustache alone had more authority than most actors have in their entire bodies. He has spent decades being one of the most quietly powerful presences in Hollywood history. And for years, he said almost nothing about what really went down behind the scenes of Tombstone. And then he opened up. What came out of his mouth stunned the fans who thought they knew everything about that film. Because this was not some throwaway interview moment. This was Sam Elliott, a man who chooses every word like he is paying for it, personally pulling back a curtain that had been nailed shut for 30 years. By the time this video is over, you are going to feel like you are watching Tombstone for the very first time. The things Elliott revealed, combined with everything that was happening behind those cameras that the audience never saw, changed the entire experience of the film. Before we go any further, if you are new here, please subscribe right now. Hit the like button. Share this with any Tombstone fan you know, because this one is going to blow their mind. And drop a comment below telling me your favorite line from the film, because I want to see if anyone picks the one that most people completely overlook. Stay with me. This is going to be worth it. Let us start at the very beginning, because the origin story of Tombstone is almost as dramatic as anything that happens on screen. The year is 1993. Hollywood is trying to figure out if westerns still have a heartbeat. The genre has been declared dead so many times, it practically has its own tombstone. And into this environment walks a project with an absolutely stacked cast, a passionate screenwriter who also wants to direct, and a production that is about to explode within weeks of starting. Kevin Jarre wrote the screenplay. If that name sounds familiar, it should. He wrote Glory, he wrote Judgment Night. The man understood epic storytelling and historical weight. His script for Tombstone was extraordinary by all accounts. Sam Elliott himself would later say it was one of the finest scripts he had ever held in his hands. That is not a casual compliment coming from a man like Elliott. Jarre also wanted to direct the film himself. That was the plan. That was always the dream. It lasted exactly 1 month. The production was enormous. The Arizona heat was relentless. The scope of what Jarre had written demanded military-level coordination on set every single day. And Jarre, brilliant as he was as a writer, was drowning. Essential shots were not being captured. The schedule was bleeding out. Producers made the call and fired him. That single decision cracked the foundation of the entire production. Michael Biehn, who was cast as Johnny Ringo, and who was a close personal friend of Jarre's, came within inches of walking off the film entirely in solidarity. He later admitted that the incoming director, George P. Cosmatos, made him feel like the vision Jarre had poured into that script was no longer being respected. And then something happened that nobody talked about publicly for over a decade. Kurt Russell stepped in, not in front of the camera, behind it. Here is where the story gets genuinely extraordinary, and this is the part that connects directly to what Sam Elliott would eventually reveal. Cosmatos came in as the official director. His name went on the posters, the credits, the press, materials. But according to Kurt Russell, who finally broke his silence in a 2013 interview with True West magazine, it was Russell himself who was actually directing the film, not Cosmatos. Russell put together the daily shot lists. Russell made the creative calls. Russell drove the vision forward, while Cosmatos served essentially as his on-set representative, a public face for a production that needed an official director so the cameras could keep rolling. Val Kilmer backed Russell up on this, confirming that Russell was functionally directing the picture. Even Biehn acknowledged it, noting that Russell never personally gave him direction, but the footprints of Russell's influence were everywhere you looked. Russell had made a promise to himself. He would not reveal this publicly while Cosmatos was still alive. He kept that promise. Cosmatos passed away in 2005, and Russell waited nearly another decade before speaking openly about what had really happened. Now here is where Sam Elliott walks back into the story in a way that most fans never fully appreciated. Elliott was not just an actor on this film, showing up to say his lines and cash a check. He cared deeply about what Jari had written. He had read that script and felt something rare in it, a fullness, a texture, a depth that went far beyond the usual genre exercise. He believed in the story the script was trying to tell. And when Russell began making cuts, significant cuts, nearly 30 pages worth of material stripped out of Jari's original screenplay, Elliott was not quiet about how he felt. He openly admitted he hated those changes. He said, without reservation, that if the version of the script he had eventually filmed had been the version handed to him at the start, he might never have agreed to be in the movie at all. That is an extraordinary thing for an actor to say about a film that became a beloved classic, and it points to something most fans of Tombstone have never fully absorbed. So what was in those missing 30 pages? What did Sam Elliott see in Jar's original vision that he mourned when it was cut away? Elliott understood instinctively that Tombstone at its deepest level was not really about gunfights. It was not about the showdown at the OK Corral or the vendetta ride that followed. Those events are the bones of the story. But the flesh, the blood, the actual beating heart of what Jari wrote was something quieter and far more human. It was about the bond between men who choose each other as family when the world around them has gone completely lawless and terrifying. Russell also understood this. It is actually the one place where Russell and Elliott agreed completely on what the film needed to be. Russell later described the relationship between Wyatt Earp and Doc Holliday as one of the greatest love affairs in American history between two men. He called it strange and violent and completely unspoken, but utterly real. A love forged out of loyalty and trust and the shared understanding that neither man had anyone else in the world they could fully count on. What Elliott mourned was the supporting architecture around that central relationship, the connective tissue. The scenes that gave the other characters room to breathe and develop and earn their place in the story. When those 30 pages came out, Elliott felt like the film became leaner and faster, but also slightly thinner. Like someone had taken a beautifully detailed painting and cleaned it up so aggressively that some of the texture disappeared. And yet, and this is the part that makes the whole story genuinely fascinating, the version of Tombstone that audiences got, the leaner version, the one Elliott had reservations about, became one of the most passionately loved films of its era. It spawned quotes that people still throw around 30 years later. It turned Val Kilmer's Doc Holliday into one of the most iconic performances in the history of Western cinema. It made Tombstone not just a movie, but a cultural touchstone. So, who was right? Elliott, who saw what was lost? Or Russell, who understood what the film needed to survive? The honest answer is probably both of them. And that tension lives inside every frame of the finished film, if you know how to look for it. Now, here is something that should genuinely shake every Tombstone fan to their core. The cast that made this film legendary was not the cast that was originally planned. Val Kilmer was not the first choice for Doc Holliday. The role was earmarked for Willem Dafoe. Sit with that for a moment. Willem Dafoe as Doc Holliday. The man is a brilliant actor, and he would have brought something powerful and strange and deeply unsettling to the role. But Hollywood politics intervened. Dafoe had played Jesus in The Last Temptation of Christ 5 years earlier, and the controversy from that film had made certain studio executives deeply uncomfortable about attaching his name to any high-profile project, so the role went elsewhere. It went to Val Kilmer, and what Kilmer did with it was nothing short of miraculous. He did not simply memorize lines and show up. He built Doc Holliday from the ground up. He studied accounts of the real man, a Georgia-born dentist-turned-gambler-turned-gunfighter who was slowly being destroyed by tuberculosis, but who somehow managed to be more dangerous dying than most men were at full health. Kilmer tracked Holliday's speech patterns rooted in his Southern upbringing. He drilled his quick draw until the timing was mechanically perfect. He wore heavy wool costumes in the brutal Arizona summer heat and refused to let the discomfort break the performance even for a single take. Sam Elliott, watching all of this from across the set, understood exactly what Kilmer was doing. Elliott is not an actor who gives empty compliments. He is the kind of man who says what he means and means exactly what he says. And Elliott recognized in Kilmer's performance something that went beyond craft into something rarer and harder to name. Then there is the detail about the mustaches, and this sounds trivial until you understand what it actually meant. On that set, every principal actor grew a real mustache. Kurt Russell, Val Kilmer, Sam, Elliott, Bill Paxton, Powers Booth, and others all grew the authentic article, and then styled the ends with wax the way men of the 1880s actually wore them. Kevin Jarre had been insistent about this before his firing, and the cast honored that commitment even after he was gone. Only one actor could not make it happen in time. John Tenney, who played Sheriff Johnny Behan, had to wear a fake one. By his own account, he felt it like a quiet embarrassment, a small separation from the brotherhood the rest of the cast had, built through shared facial hair and shared commitment to the world they were trying to create. It is a ridiculous, small detail. It is also a perfect window into what made Tombstone different from the average studio western. When Cosmatos took over the production from Jarre, the set did not settle down. It detonated. His approach was authoritarian, demanding, uncompromising to a degree that some crew members found inspiring and others found impossible to work within. Production designer Catherine Hardwicke described him as relentless in his pursuit of what he wanted and equally relentless in his willingness to push people past their limits to get it. Joe, the numbers tell the story plainly. By the time filming wrapped, approximately 17 crew members had either quit or been fired. 17 people could not survive the conditions of that production. Nobody felt the tension more personally than cinematographer William Fraker. Fraker was an accomplished professional with decades of experience and serious credits to his name. He and Cosmatos clashed so severely and so repeatedly that Fraker quit the production 3 separate times, not once, 3 times. The conflict between them got so heated that there were reportedly incidents involving golf carts being rammed into each other on set, which is simultaneously the most absurd and most perfectly Western thing that could possibly happen during the making of a Western. Each time Fraker walked, producer James Jacks pulled him back. The argument Jacks made was straightforward and irrefutable. Look at the footage. Whatever the condition were like on set, what was appearing on screen was extraordinary. Fraker could not argue with that, and so he stayed. Meanwhile, Russell was doing something that very few actors in Hollywood history have ever done successfully. He was directing a major studio film in secret while also playing the lead character in it. He was building shot lists at night. He was coordinating with the crew before the cameras rolled. He was making the decisions that determined what audiences would ultimately see. And Sam Elliott, who had arrived on this film believing in the fullest possible version of the story, was watching all of it unfold with a combination of deep respect and quiet grief for what had been left behind. Here is something that surprises a lot of people who love Tombstone. Many of the moments in the film that feel most like Hollywood invention are actually pulled directly from the historical record. The scene where Wyatt Earp wades into a creek during the ambush at Iron Springs, bullets cutting the air all around him, not a single one finding its mark, before he levels his shotgun and kills Curly Bill Brocious. It looks like mythology made cinematic. It feels like the kind of thing a screenwriter invented to make the hero look superhuman. It actually happened. Johnny Barnes, one of the outlaws who survived the ambush, gave an account of what he witnessed while he was dying from his wounds in a farmhouse nearby. His description of Earp walking through that wall of gunfire, untouched and unstoppable, matches almost exactly what ends up on screen. The real Wyatt Earp did something at Iron Springs that defied every probability and somehow walked away from it. And then there is the line, "You know the one. I am your Huckleberry." Val Kilmer delivers it with that half-dead aristocratic drawl, and it lands like a thunderclap every single time. The debate over whether Doc Holliday actually said those words has been running online for years. The Tombstone screenplay, 4th draft, dated March 1993, spells it out clearly. Huckleberry. In old Southern slang, the phrase meant, "I am exactly the right man for this particular job." Given that Holliday was Georgia, born and bred, the phrase fits him like a custom-made suit. Some historians argue he may have actually said hucklebearer, an old term for pallbearer, making the line a direct and chilling promise of death. Either interpretation makes Doc Holliday the most frightening man in any room he ever entered. The headstone early in the film is real too. Here lies Lester Moore, 4 slugs from 44, no less, no more. That inscription actually exists on a grave in Tombstone, Arizona. The shot in the film was captured at a replica at Knott's Berry Farm in California. But the words themselves belong to history. So we come back to Sam Elliott and the revelation that started all of this. What Elliott saw in Tombstone that most fans never noticed was not a single moment or a single scene. It was something that lived in the spaces between what made it to the screen and what was left behind on the cutting room floor. He saw a film that was simultaneously exactly what it needed to be and a shadow of what it could have been. It carried both of those truths at the same time without letting either one cancel the other out. That is a complicated relationship to have with your own work, and it speaks to the kind of actor and the kind of man that Elliott actually is. He never publicly attacked Russell. He never dismissed what the film became. He simply told the truth about what he had hoped it would be, and acknowledged that the version audiences received and embraced was something different from that original vision. And perhaps that is the most honest thing that can be said about any great piece of art. It is always the product of competing visions, impossible conditions, sacrificed ideas, and decisions made under pressure that nobody fully agreed with at the time. Tombstone is not great because everything went perfectly. It is great because the people making it cared so fiercely about it that even the chaos could not kill what was best about it. Elliott brought Virgil Earp to life with a gravity and a stillness that anchored every scene he was in. And knowing now what he was privately carrying during that production, knowing what he felt had been lost and what he feared might be missing, makes that performance mean something different than it did before. Tombstone was released in December 1993 and made $73 million at the box office. That was a solid number. But nobody watching those returns predicted what would come next. The film became something that almost no studio production becomes anymore. It became genuinely permanent. Not in the sense that people remember it fondly and revisit it occasionally, but in the sense that it wove itself into the fabric of how people talk, how people think about loyalty and friendship, and what it means to stand by someone when the world turns hostile. The lines from this film did not just become catchphrases. They became shorthand for entire emotional states. People quote Doc Holliday not because it is fun to do a Val Kilmer impression, although it absolutely is, but because those words actually say something true about the human experience that everyday language struggles to capture. Sam Elliott understood this potential from the very first time he read Kevin Jarrett's script. He saw what this story was reaching for. He signed on because of that vision. He grieved the parts of it that were cut away, and he gave everything he had to make sure that what remained on screen was worthy of what the original had promised. There is reportedly a significant amount of footage from the production that Kurt Russell has held on to over the years. Material that has never been publicly released. A director's cut that has been discussed and teased and longed for by fans for 3 decades. Whether that footage ever sees the light of day is a question. That remains genuinely open. But here is what we know right now. The version of Tombstone that exists is already more than enough. It is a film built out of passion and conflict and sacrifice and secrets kept for a decade, and a man reading a script and thinking this is one of the finest things I have ever held in my hands. It is a film that made lightning out of chaos, and Sam Elliott, gravel voice and all, was right in the middle of every single bit of it. Now I want to hear from you. What is the one moment in Tombstone that hits you differently every single time you watch it? Drop it in the comments right now. I read every response, and I want to know which scene lives in your bones the way this film lives in mine. If this video gave you something new, if it made you want to go back and watch Tombstone with fresh eyes tonight, share it with someone who loves this film. They deserve to know all of this. Like the video, subscribe if you are not already here, and I will see you in the next one where we are going even deeper on a story that Hollywood has been sitting on for years. Do not go anywhere. It is coming, and you are going to want to be here for it.